Hello dear learner, I welcome you to the lecture 2 of week 5 and the topic of today's lecture is Gramsci's on role of ideas. Now in this lecture, we will first of all cover who is Gramsci and what was his principal ideas. Then we will have a look at Gramsci's critique of the previous ideological theories, Gramsci's reconceptualization of ideology, and then we will have a look at the notion of organic ideology and class hegemony. Now, first of all, we must know who was Antonio Gramsci. Antonio Francisco Gramsci, he was born in the year 1891 and died in year 1937. He was an Italian Marxist philosopher, linguist, journalist, writer and politician. So, he was a versatile personality. He wrote on philosophy, political theory, then sociology, history and linguistics. He was a founding member and one-time leader of Italian Communist Party. He was a vocal critic of Benito Mussolini and fascism, and as a result of that, he was imprisoned in the year 1926, where he remained in the jail until his death in 1937. Now, during his imprisonment, Gramsci wrote more than 30 notebooks and 3000 pages of history and analysis. His prison notebooks are considered a highly original contribution to the 20th century political theory. So, with this brief background of Antonio Gramsci's life, we would now like to have a brief overview of his important ideas. Now, Gramsci is primarily known for his theory of cultural hegemony, which describes how the state and the ruling capitalist class, the bourgeois, uses cultural institutions to maintain power in capitalist societies. If you read and remember the traditional Marxist analysis of hegemony of the bourgeois over the proletariat class, you will remember that Karl Marx had given an economic analysis of this relation or of this domination, whereas Gramsci is talking about the role of cultural hegemony, because it has been found that even when Karl Marx predicted that the final stage of achievement of socialism will be the establishment of a communist state, which will be a classless and a stateless society. But you know, across the world, in different communist states, we could not find that this ideal or this objective or the final goal of Marxist theory was achieved. So, what were the reasons behind them? Why the classless and stateless society could not be achieved? And also another important development was noticed: the urge for revolution or the revolutionary instincts, forces were slowly it was getting disappeared from the society. Especially in the Western capitalist society, it was seen that the laborers and the proletariats were getting co-opted into the capitalist system, and this was done by various measures, and one of the important means was the cultural means. So, if we have to understand the reasons behind why the revolution did not take place in the bourgeois capitalist society, then simply the economic explanation which was given by Karl Marx is not enough. We have to understand how in the cultural sphere the bourgeois, they exercise their hegemony over the proletariat or over the working class population. In Gramsci's view, the bourgeois develops a hegemonic culture using ideology rather than violence, economic force or coercion. Because ideological dominance, ideological hegemony is much more long lasting, it is much more readily accepted, it is subtle, and sometimes it is not being able to be identified by the individuals, because ideological dominance takes place through the inculcation of certain ideas. So, when individuals are inculcated with certain ideas which are in favor of the ruling class, then it becomes very easy for the bourgeois or the ruling class to maintain its hold over the proletariat or the general mass in a very simple manner or in a very easy manner. So, violence may be used as a method of maintaining hegemony or control, but generally violence generates lots of reaction. It is never accepted by the people from their heart, and through violence control cannot be maintained for a long duration. So, therefore, the bourgeois have developed an alternative method of exercising their dominance, and it was through the medium of culture, and the medium of culture means using the tool of ideology or ideas. And hence, in this lecture, we will be focusing on the role of ideas, how ideas can play a very important role in maintaining hegemony of the bourgeois over the society, over the common people, and how counter hegemony of ideas can be created by the proletariat to quash the hegemony of the bourgeois ideas. He is described as neo-Marxist because he attempted to break from the economic determinism of orthodox Marxist thought, because he has reinterpreted, and those thinkers who have reinterpreted the Marxist thought are being labeled as neo-Marxist because of the one important distinction that they have moved from the economic determinants of history to the cultural determinants or to the study of cultural factors. So, therefore, he said that simply economic or the study of economic factors is not enough to understand the working of society or the capitalist system of production or the capitalist dominance or the dominance of the ruling class over the common people. We have to go behind the various other subtle forms of dominance and control which is exercised by the bourgeois. Therefore, he attempted to break from the economic determinism which constitutes the core element of Marxist political thought, and therefore he has been termed as neo-Marxist. He also held a humanistic understanding of Marxism, seeing it as a philosophy or praxis and an absolute historicism that transcends traditional materialism and traditional idealism. Now, before we have an understanding of Gramsci's views on the role of ideas and how he has viewed ideology as an important force in society, it is essential to understand his criticisms of previous ideological theories. What the earlier ideological theories have been talking about the role of ideas. Now, Antonio Gramsci's analysis of ideology departed significantly from the conventional Marxist interpretations which were prevalent during his time. As we have already mentioned that he was a Marxist thinker, but he had made considerable improvements or reinterpretation of the Marxist theory, keeping in mind the changes in the circumstances or keeping in mind the new challenges which have been posed to the world and which cannot be interpreted with the conventional Marxist strategies. He articulated a nuanced critique of two prevailing notions. So, we have to understand in much detail what type of criticism and against whom the critiques were directed. And we find that he made a very detailed criticism of two important notions. One is the epiphenomenalism and class reductionism. What is epiphenomenalism? We must understand the meaning of this term. It means that, or it assumes that the ideology, it is a mere reflection or secondary phenomena of the underlying economic base of society. So, it is not an independent variable. Here ideology is not considered as an independent variable, but as a dependent variable. Ideology does not have its own existence, but ideology is a mere reflection or a secondary phenomena of the underlying economic base of the society. If you remember the Marxist understanding of society, then he has said that society consists of two parts, one is the base and the second is the superstructure. He considered economic system to be the base of the society, and all other state or ideas, they are a part of the superstructure, and these superstructure reflect the nature of the economic system which is in existence at a particular point of time. So, therefore, it is very important to understand once again that the base constituted the economic system and the superstructure constituted the political system or the ideas and all other dimensions of society. And the nature of the superstructure was determined by the nature of the base or the economic structure or economic system of the society. So, therefore, ideology was considered as the product of a particular economic system which was prevalent in a particular point of time. So, it was considered a secondary phenomena, it was considered a mere reflection which has been characterized as epiphenomenalism, and this has been very much criticized by Antonio Gramsci. In other words, ideologies are seen as epiphenomena, means superficial manifestations of the material conditions of production. So, whatever be the material conditions of production, ideas will be according to that, and those ideas will be used by the political structure or the political elites to rule the society or to rule over the people or the proletariats in the society. So, therefore, they are considered as superficial manifestation, and I have already said that they appear to be something which is dependent, they do not have any independent existence of their own. According to this view, ideological superstructures were mechanically determined by the economic structure or economic infrastructure, rendering ideology inconsequential in driving societal change. So, very important to understand that if we conceive ideology and its role in society in a particular perspective, then what impacts it has on other dimensions of life or on other dimensions of society. And here it is very clear that Gramsci is arguing that it is just considered, ideology is just considered in a mechanical way a manifestation of merely what is happening at the base or in the economic system, as if ideas have no role, have no independent role to play in the society. And because of this particular perspective, the role of ideology in bringing about social change has been totally neglected. So, when we are talking about change and revolution, the role of ideas have played a very important role. If you take the examples of important revolutions which have taken place across the world, whether you take the case of French Revolution or the American Revolution, you will find that all these revolutions were motivated and inspired by the political ideas of great thinkers. So, therefore, ideas play a very important role in shaping society. Ideas provide a roadmap to the society, it provides us the goals towards which the society can move. It also helps in analyzing and understanding our present political system. So, therefore, ideas are very important, ideas play very important role in our lives, in understanding our political system, in making an evaluation of the political system, and also for bringing about change and transformation in the political system. But unfortunately, this important function of ideology has been totally ignored or neglected. Gramsci challenges the reductionist view by arguing that ideology is not merely a passive reflection of economic relations, but an active force that shapes individual and collective consciousness. Very important point. Now, there has been a tendency, or you can say that a phenomena of the reductionism, which means the process of reducing something from a larger phenomena. When we try to reduce ideology only to the economic aspect, we are reducing the role and the position and the function of ideology in the wider context of society. Now, this is not at all beneficial, and in fact, it is harmful for understanding the active role of ideology. Ideology is not simply passive. So, see the difference which Gramsci has made between the ideology which has been described by the earlier interpretations and how he has described and considered ideology as an active force. Therefore, if you want to study Gramsci's theory of cultural hegemony or Gramsci's reinterpretation of Marxist theory, we have to understand how he has understood the concept of ideology or the role of ideas. Now, rather than being determined solely by economic factors, ideology interact dynamically with social, cultural and historical context. So, until now we have seen that ideologies are merely the passive reflection of the economic system. So, Gramsci has critiqued it, and he has argued that ideologies also interact dynamically with the social system, with the political system and also the historical and cultural context. So, by limiting ideology in a unidimensional manner to only one dimension of society is not correct, or to undermine the role of ideology. Gramsci critiques class reductionism. Now, see, the idea of the reductionism of ideology is manifested also in the case of class, where we reduce the understanding of class in terms of simply ideological dynamics by attributing distinct ideologies to different social classes. The classes are also understood in terms of ideology because of certain relations of production, because of the certain modes of production. Now, there are always two distinct classes in the society, each having its own set of ideas or ideology, and the proletariat is guided by certain ideology and the bourgeois is guided by a certain set of ideologies which are determined by their economic relations. Now, this understanding or the narrow understanding of class in terms of two distinct ideologies only is a type of class reductionism which is not acceptable to Gramsci. Gramsci challenged these notions, arguing that ideology play a vital role in both shaping and reflecting social relations and power structure. Now, this point is also very significant. So, now after making a criticism of ideology being reduced to only the economic subset of the society and merely considering it as a passive force, Gramsci argues that ideology plays a very important role in shaping social relations, because the way we live in the society, the way we interact and what opinion and views we have about the world around us are shaped by ideas. Because you know that there are so many groups and there are so many communities in the society, and everybody looks at a certain problem, a certain event and occurrence from a different perspective. And from where does the perspective comes? We all know that the different perspective comes from the different set of ideas. For example, the Marxist perspective, we have the liberal perspective, then we have the fascist perspective. There are multifarious perspectives to look at the world from different context and from different viewpoints. So, therefore, ideas plays a very important role in shaping our social relations, and I have already mentioned that ideas play a very important role in providing the roadmap for our society. What are the objectives and goals towards which our society moves? That is also determined by ideas, and it also plays an important role in shaping and reflecting power structures, the power dynamics in the society, or in other words, the power relation between the dominant and the subdued class, then the power relation between the master and the slave, the power relation between the capitalist and the bourgeois. Everywhere we find that those power relations can be understood with the help of certain ideas. They can be analyzed and also changed with the help of certain ideas. So, therefore, ideas play a very vital role in shaping social relation and also in shaping power structures. While acknowledging the role of class interest in shaping ideologies, Gramsci emphasized the complexity of ideological formation which often transcend rigid class boundaries. So, there is no doubt that there is class interest in shaping ideologies, because every class is having certain ideology, and the interest of those classes are connected with the ideology which they propagate. So, therefore, the ideological formulations are very complex in nature, and also they are not limited to only class divisions or class structure. They transcend the rigid class boundaries also. So, that needs to be understood when we are talking about the role of ideas. Then, after understanding all the criticisms which Gramsci has labelled against the traditional understanding of ideology, how he has himself reconceptualized the notion of ideology. Gramsci defined or redefined ideology as a complex terrain comprising practices, principles and dogmas that constituted individual as social subjects. So, he considered ideology as a complex terrain which comprises various practices. It also comprises principles, dogmas that constituted individual as social subject, with individual at the center as a social subject. There are a set of dogmas, principles and also practices which constitute, which is known as ideology. Gramsci's reconceptualization of ideology moves beyond the passive reflection model proposed by epiphenomenalism. So, we can see that how epiphenomenalism, it talks only in terms of the ideology as a reflection of the economic system. So, his reconceptualization, Gramsci's his definition of ideology goes beyond these classifying ideology as a passive structure or as a passive reflection model. He argued that ideology was not merely a reflection of economic conditions, but rather a force that permeated all aspects of societal life, including economic structure. Now, another very important dimension was added by Gramsci when he said that ideology not merely invades all the dimensions of life, but it also permeates all aspects of our societal lives. That is, no dimension of our life is untouched by the influence of ideas. So, therefore, we have to go beyond the linking of ideology only with the economic relation or economic system. Instead, he views ideology as a dynamic terrain comprising practices, principles and beliefs that actively shape individual and collective identities. Unlike the deterministic view of ideology as a mere reflection of economic conditions, Gramsci highlighted its active role in both maintaining social order and facilitating revolutionary change. So, here Gramsci is emphasizing upon the role of ideas, and that role he is talking about maintaining social order, because every political system, every society wants to maintain stability and order, and therefore, certain ideas are used to maintain that stability. Otherwise, there would have been anarchy and chaos. Similarly, if you want to bring about change and transformation, then also we need certain ideas. So, ideologies are not static entities, but rather contested spaces where different social forces vie for dominance. It is a very interesting thing. They are not static entities, they are continuously evolving, and they are contested spaces because the various social forces or actors they are vying with each other, they are competing with each other to get hold over the ideology, because that ideology is a very powerful means for dominance. Gramsci's concept of ideology encompasses not only the explicit political ideologies, but also implicit cultural norms, values and common sense assumptions that permeate society. So, it is also another very important understanding of ideology, in the sense that he has expanded the notion of ideology. Ideology does not or is not limited only to the political norms, but it also includes various cultural norms, values and common sense assumptions also, because those incorporations or incorporation of those values in the ideology can help in using it in a more powerful way to exercise dominance or to develop a counter narrative to the dominant ideology. These ideological formations play a crucial role in legitimizing existing power structures and shaping collective consciousness. So, therefore, there is no doubt that why change and transformation or revolution did not took place in the capitalist bourgeois system, and we know that the reason being that these ideological formations or ideology has been used by the capitalist bourgeois to, in a way, to legitimize their power structure or their rule, and in this process they have co-opted the proletariat class in the functioning of the capitalist system. Ideological struggle, according to Gramsci, is central to the process of social change. So, ideological struggle is central, because when we are talking about change, there is naturally talk about a different set of ideology or ideas for bringing about change. Change often talks about challenging or contesting the already prevalent ideology. It may be ideology of the bourgeois or ideology of the ruling elites or anybody else, but it aims at bringing about change also at the level of ideology. With the old and the traditional ideology, we cannot bring about change. For bringing about change and transformation, we need a new set of ideology. So, therefore, ideological struggle is central to the process of social change. Then we have the notion of organic ideology and class hegemony. Central to Gramsci's theory of ideology is the concept of organic ideology, which refers to the unified system of beliefs and values which reflects the communal life of a social bloc. Organic ideologies serve as a basis of class hegemony, encompassing not only political leadership but also intellectual and moral guidance. That he has, through the notion of organic ideology, which refers to a unified system of beliefs and values which actually reflects the communal life of a social bloc, how that is used for maintaining class hegemony, and it includes not only political leadership but also intellectual and moral guidance. Gramsci identifies organic intellectuals as key agents in formulating and also in the dissemination of organic ideologies. Now, with this, I come to the end of this lecture, followed by certain questions which are based on the topics which are covered. How does Gramsci challenge the traditional views on ideology, and what are the implications of his critique for understanding social dynamics? Explain Gramsci's concept of hegemony and its significance in power relations within society. How does it differ from the conventional notions of power? What role do organic ideologies play in maintaining class hegemony, and how they are propagated within society? So, with this, I come to the end of this lecture. Hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you very much.